welcome to week 3. Today we're going to build the assets and take them into After Effects. So we're going to look at our storyboard so we know what assets we're supposed to be creating. So it looks like I'm going to have a character, spaceship, a planet, and the library. On Photoshop, I created these. What I did was create different layers. For this one, I'm just going to make the layer into one since I don't really need multiple layers for this scene. Then I'm going to save it. So when I transfer it over to After Effects, it will be all ready. For the spaceship, I need 2 layers. One will be the seat, and one will actually be the spaceship. And I'll show you why. I would need that is because I'm going to just put my character in between these 2 layers. So we'll also save this. So at the end, the spaceship's going to be flying to a planet. So I created a quick planet. This is just one layer also. So I'll save this also. And lastly, I have to have my character. So for the character, I just started off with a quick pencil sketch. Then I got a little bit more detail into it. And then when I wanted to do my final product, I want you all to pay attention to the fact that it's all in different layers. The head is in a different layer. The torso is in its own layer. I have the legs, different layers each. I have a book that he'll be holding, and the arms also in different layers. The reason why we want them to be in different layers is pretty much because we want to be able to control them if we need to do any movements. If they're in different layers, we're able to rotate them. We'll be able to rotate the head, we'll be able to move arms, we'll be able to move legs. For this specific animation, we won't really be doing too much movement other than the head, but it's always good to get into the practice of just making them into different layers. So here's my character. This was done in Photoshop with a drawing tablet. You could also do this in Illustrator, and I will be demonstrating that shortly. So we open up Illustrator. I'm keeping everything square because we want it to be a square for Instagram purposes. That's where we'll be sharing it. So I'm just going to use shapes to build up my character. And if you're familiar with Illustrator, you'll be able to see that you could manipulate the shapes to get the final result. And this will also be working with layers. So I create the head. Now I'm going to be creating his hair. And since this is not really going to be the asset that I'll be using, I'm just quickly doing one just to show you how to do it on Illustrator. All the curls I'm going to combine into one shape by using the Pathfinder. And I want to put some hair in the back. So I just move these layers behind the face. To make the ears, I just make circles. I use the eyedrop tool to get the same color as the face. Using the align tool, I make sure that they're both aligned. And then by clicking the 3 objects, I use the Pathfind tool to combine them, and then I move it behind the curls. For the eyes, I just use the circle shape tool. Once again, the align tool just to make sure that they're both aligned. For the nose, I just use the circle tool, eyedrop tool to get the same color as the face, and then I'm just going to delete one of the points so that I get the nose. I duplicate that so that I could just use that for the mouth too. I just remove the fill-in, make it thicker, and change the cap to round. Two small adjustments. Now this is going to be all in one layer. So that's the layer of the head. Now I'm going to work on the torso. Torso is pretty simple. Now I'm going to work on the legs. Each one will be in its own layer. Gonna do the shoe. Doing the sole of the shoe, and then the canvas part of it. I'll make that to red. And use the rectangle tool to make the shoelaces. So the good thing about Illustrator is that you don't need to know traditional art to be able to create something in here. It is just building with shapes. So once I have some kind of shoelaces going on here, I could just zoom out. That's its own layer. Duplicate it and just turn it around to get the other leg. I name them because it'll make it easier to organize them. Now I'm going to work on the arms. For the sleeve, just make sure I get one corner and I'm going to round that corner. Then I'll delete this line and build out the arm. I duplicate that one and it'll be the forearm. Use Pathfinder to combine them. And then I create the hand. So just working on thumbs and fingers here. And combine those with the Pathfinder. I didn't really like how that looked, so I'll remove that. And that'll do. Smooth that line out. Put the arm behind the sleeve. Align it, and then I'll just duplicate this layer. And then I'll just reflect it and put it in position. Now I'll just create the book. And I didn't put it in a separate layer, so I'll just copy it, make a new layer, and paste it in place. And there, that's the asset of the boy if you would have done it in Illustrator. Just name them again. It's very important to keep these organized. So when you are working with multiple assets and multiple layers, it'll be easier for you to find what you're looking for. Right. So now we come over to After Effects. We're going to create a new document. I'm squaring it since, again, it's going to be for After Effects. You can change the background color. It's not really going to make a difference. So with a blue, it doesn't really matter. At least not for what we're going to be doing. Okay. So now we are going to bring in the assets by going to bringing in the files. We need our rocket, and we're bringing it to composition. We'll do the same thing with the other files. I want to make a solid color. This will be the sky. So I'm only going to use the library layer. And I'm going to scale it. Use the corners and hold down shift to make sure that it's scaled evenly. And then we put it in the position where we want it. Now we're doing a camera, but first we need to make a null. Then we add the camera, and we click on the swirl, bring it over to the null so that it is now linked to the null. The reason why we're doing this is so that we could do the zoom in. If you remember from the storyboard, we're going to be zooming into the library, and then it'll switch over to the boy. So on the null, we change the position. We make it 3D by clicking on the box, and we're able to zoom in and out. By clicking on the clock, we're able to do a keyframe. Once we have both keyframes, we click both of them and do the easy ease. It'll just even out the animation. Just make it a little bit smoother. So next, we are going to bring the boy. We're starting it right after we zoom into the library. Giving it a couple of seconds of length. And I need to move the timeline over so that I can actually see the composition. Scaling the the boy down, just like how I did with the library. We go over to the composition of the boy, and this is where we'll be able to actually manipulate. And as you can see, the layers are named, and we're able to actually transform specific parts. So we want to make sure the anchor point is right at the chin. We adjust the head again. And the anchor point pretty much lets the program know where it's going to be rotating from. So as you can see, the anchor point stays in place and the rest of the head rotates. So we do a couple of rotations, and we're going to select all our keyframes and do the easy ease again. So now when we come back to the actual composition, the actual project, you'll see that his head is moving from side to side. So I'm going to make another null in the camera. We get to null 2, make the boy and null 2 3D by clicking on the boxes, and scale the boy. Actually, for this one, I'm just going to remove the null in the camera. We won't need it for this one because all we're doing is actually just zooming in. So we're just going to change it, the z-axis on the actual boy. We'll make sure that it moves a little bit down too, so that the camera zooms into the face. Click on the keyframes and easy ease again. Now you can see that it's zooming into the boy's face. So now I bring over the rocket ship. And we'll bring the boy back in. I just gotta make sure the seat is behind, the boy's in the middle, and the ship's in front. I scale them all down. And now I want to make sure that the boy's face is by the rocket window. And I just scale down the boy more and position him in a spot where you can see him in the window of the rocket ship. I combine all three of those layers into a pre-composition. Just makes it easier to control and gives you less layers to work with. So now if you want to do anything in the pre-composition, you just double click on the pre-composition. Now we move the rocket layer so that it starts right after the camera zooms in on the boy's face. And we want the transition to be where you see the boy's face, but when it zooms out, it's going to reveal that he's now in a rocket ship. was a little pixelated, so I'm gonna try doing that again. I think it was because I just did the composition of the buoy and not the layers of the buoy. So pre-composition that, and now in the pre-composition, I will scale down the layers and then put them in the proper order. Make sure they're all selected. I need the paper layer, so I'll delete that. It's the white background that was there. Put the rocket seat in the back. Scale down the buoy again. Now we do the transitions. So we kind of want to get it to a point where it's close to where the other face ends. And then we want the camera to actually zoom out and reveal the rocket. We want the rocket to be moving out of frame. So there we go. I was moving too fast, so I added an extra frame there to put in a position that gives you a little bit more reveal of the rocket. I will easy ease them. So now it's like we're going into the boy's mind of the book he's reading. He's in a rocket ship. So I think I'm okay with that. And the next thing is the planet. Now we put the planet where we want it. We're going to bring in another rocket. Because in our storyboard, we put that we were going to have the rocket fly towards the planet. Position them out of frame. And we're going to create a path that the rocket will follow. This is using the pen tool, but I did it in the wrong layer. So again, using the pen tool, you will see that it creates a shape layer, and we just make a path. From the shape layer, we want to open up the content, the shape, and we want to copy the path of the shape. And we go over to the rocket recomposition. We press P, it opens up position, and we paste it in the position. So then the rocket will actually follow that path. But let's also mess with the scale. So when it's getting closer to the planet, it's actually getting smaller. We'll easy ease those keyframes. And we do some time adjustments here. And now we have our animation. The last thing that we're doing with this is putting in the words. Go to the T, which will give us our text, and we'll write books take you to new worlds. And make sure you highlight the words if you're going to make any changes. And we can just adjust the text where we want it, when we want it to start, and when we want it to end. Adjust our time. And then we're going to do opacity where we go from just kind of like fading in. Okay. So that's it for this week. We have gone through creating the assets on Photoshop, taking them over to After Effects, and setting them in After Effects, doing some basic animations. We set our timeline to about 12 seconds. Usually, micro animations, you want them to be short, like we talked about in the first week, because they're going to be seen through social media timelines, and people's attention spans tend to be shorter nowadays. So next week we will go over how to export it.